Very good evening, students. So, how was your test today? Give me a brief. क्या चल रहा है? Studies क्या study कर रहा है? What has been your priority in these days? PYQs, prelims. Okay, you are mainly focusing on those subjects which there is syllabus linkage between prelims and mains. Optionals? Optional? Like what is status? What about these workbooks? Are you using it? Adding validation हो रहा है उसमें? You have written something in the allocated space. ठीक है. So this is the third class. Including today, you will be getting 75 topics around. And we are not just covering the topic, we are trying to extrapolate it, related concepts, related facts, which should not be missed. All these aspects we are trying to cover in this. So third class, 75 topics. Around 10 class we will cover up monthly wise. Then we will be ending up with till December 2023. So we will be having more than 250 topics before January or at the starting of the January. So that has been the objective of starting this batch so early. Two primary purpose, especially for those who are watching online. Why we started this batch so early, which is fully focused on prelims, is one reason. It is not that you should completely shift into prelims mode right now. Even now after Diwali, you still have at least 1 month where your focus can be still on mains preparation, your optional preparation, doing some answer writing. But spend a minimum time on prelims so that by the time you end of December, you want to make the shift. You don't start with zero. Otherwise, 1 month will again go before planning, making that switch. That should not happen. So our approach is by January, you will be having a head start. 250 topics with interlinkages, with some concepts you will get from the class, some will be written in the notebook, and you will be doing around 250 question also. So that will give a very strong head start to prelims preparation. That was our objective. From January, we will be shifting to theme wise from science and tech, economy, every different themes we will cover accordingly. That will start from January. No, I will keep separate pages where there will be the topics which we covered in this monthly current affairs. That will be separate pages. You don't need to go into that. Only the topics which has not been covered, that will be given separately in that booklet, snippet booklet. Some arrangement will be done so that this you don't need to think too much whether it is done, whether it is not done. That will be taken care of. Any other issue? Yeah. So another aspect what we introduce part of the program is the workbook approach. What is the purpose of workbook approach? It will only work if there is active participation from your side. Studying, many of the times we see for UPSC itself, studying become too monotonous. And now we are living in a space where whatever format you want content, you will get it. There is no dearth of content. You want in point format, you want in elaborated format, you want in very micro content, whichever format, there are tools, there are sources to get these done. So how you can get yourself, how you can optimize your study in these circumstances. That is our primary concern. And what we have been doing, Whatever workbooks I am giving, there is one clear objective. I want you to interact with this material. I want you to, even you told that the many topics are factual and it has been covered comprehensively. Even comprehensively, just underline it. Just add something that comes to your mind. It's not that everything you add in the workbooks may be too much relevant to the exam also. Thing is, you make it a habit that next time you come through the material, you should have some mental connections. Revision should become a cakewalk. So that is the overall objective of workbook, and it will, if you like start at a later stage, say at the end of the December, you have these 250 topics in front of you. You start picking up these topics and start mugging up it. Then that is not the whole purpose of doing this. That will like nullify, even in some of the topics we will not cover too much in the workbook. We will cover it in the class, or I will tell you to go and visit that website, visit XYZ about page or some other pages and add details into this. Have you done something like this? Some part you need to add yourself. You should bring some kind of personalization, some kind of research aptitude from your side also. Moreover, think on every topic, like what more can be done. No material, you have seen the pattern of the exam, it's been changing year after year. No material, whatever you invest, cannot be considered as comprehensive, or you cannot say that everything will come from this material. So what is solution as a student? Student can do only one thing, apply his own mind to it. Whatever topic you are getting, try to extrapolate it, try to think what more dimensions can be asked in the exam. Go through the
So in that it was mentioned that Vivong is present over the entire course. So in this workbook, then I can add that it is not present over the entire course. That is wrong. So next time I'll be visiting it. So I will be linking it with the previous question.
That will also be included in today's class itself. Like previously also we have been doing. The idea is it's not practically possible to remember everything and approach the exam. You need some kind of aptitude in writing the exam also. But our objective is we have plenty of time. At least we think from prelims perspective, we have enough time. So primary objective is not to learn tricks to solve these papers. Primary objective is build your content. So at least till December, January, till February at least, prepare on the knowledge aspect. Don't too much, when solving the paper you can look for tricks, you can apply your knowledge and get the answers, no issues with that. But beyond that, our objective is to cover the topics, to get your, strengthen your basic knowledge about the topics. So focus should be on that direction. Baki sub tricks we will learn accordingly. We have time, we have enough space for that. So I hope the premise is clear. We will go to first question of the day. So if you are watching online, I want you to read the question, go through it and answer, try to solve the question. Some questions are very confusing in today's paper. If you are watching online, you can comment the answer. In the open chat, you can put the answer. Tell me what you answered. C, B. Okay. Let's read the question. In the context of international economic theory and policy, I don't think too much relevance nahi hai. Evaluate the following statements related to IMF. What all you know about IMF? Where we hear about IMF? LPG reforms. Sri Lanka issue was going on. We hear so much about deals with IMF. What is common between LPG reforms and what happened in Sri Lanka? Both countries were facing balance of payment crisis. So both countries were, any country is suppose going through balance of payment crisis, then you will see here the news about IMF coming with something, IMF quota system, IMF loan, IMF deals, everything, IMF policy suggestions. So all this picture come into picture. So something related to balance of payment. Balance of payment, what is it? It is related to? It is related to exports and imports, the trade relation the country is having with the outside world. So something on this aspect should be the premise of IMF. At least this much you should not be having any confusion. The establishment of IMF aimed at stabilizing global financial system. Stabilizing global financial systems by preventing competitive devaluations. A practice where countries devaluate their currencies to boost exports. What do you think of this statement? See, there is something related to this. We have been given an economic term. What is the economic term? Competitive devaluation. Competitive devaluation is something like trade war. You are purposefully and aggressively pursuing currency war with other countries, keeping yourself low to make your export cheaper. Cheaper means more competitive and there will be more volume of sales. So something related to trade, something related to, if this is happening, some countries doing this, what will be long-term consequence of this? At the end of the day, there should be what? Sustainability in whatever policy the company is following. If purposefully devaluation is happening, no other economic or no other aspects, capital account also we assume to be not playing much a role. If this is the situation, then what we will end up with? We will end up with high inflation in the country. The country will be also importing something. Imports become incompetitive. From India's perspective, if Indian currency we devaluate, what will happen in India? Exports, maybe we will get a boost, we will get dollars out of this. But imports will become more costly. You have to give more rupee to import the oil. We are completely dependent on oil. More than 80% of our oil are coming from. So what will we end up with? We will end up with inflation. We will end up with economic instability. So this is something which should not be happen. And this instability can even connect with balance of payment. IMF, the economic concepts are very much related to where the IMF is working. High chance this can be a right option. Second statement, IMF's approach to assisting economies in distress encompasses a variety of financial mechanisms, including loans, cash distributions, bonds, and stock purchases. Now, what is wrong with this statement or what is right with this statement? Tell me. IMF, this option is wrong option, or you can logically take this as wrong option. Why this is wrong? IMF indeed come with some kind of helping plan. Some kind of helping plan means it will give money to the country in distress. Now, what are the mechanism under which it will give money? Either there will be SDR quota system, reserve tranche will be there in the IMF. The country have invested this money, so they can take it up to manage the balance of payment crisis. If within this system is not working, what is the next options? Agreements will be signed. So the country has to do some structural reforms. may have to work with the public sector, may have to open up some trade. Some structural reforms has to be undertaken, and based on this structural, there will be this much of reforms you do, you will get this much of money. Some these kind of agreements will be done. Or there is an extreme emergency situation where there will be another agreement where money will be given to the company on some interest basis. It has to repay in a long term basis. So in all these, what you are seeing, in all these options, what you are seeing is IMF contracts are related to debts. It is not interested in investing in capital investments. It is not going to invest in stock purchases. Stock purchases is specifically a capital market, and stock purchases mostly relate with private sector. It's not all private sector. There will be public companies also in the stock exchange, but it is mostly related to private sector. So there is hard chance stock exchange purchases will come into picture. When you think about bonds, same confusion can come with bonds also. But bonds can be government bonds to support the government. It can, or it can release its own bonds. Like World Bank has a number of bonds. Similarly, maybe IMF, you may not be aware. You can think that bonds can be little bit confusing, but stock purchases within this list make your answer little bit doable. Stock purchases is too hard to get, at least from a institution which is focusing not on development but mostly on stability, economic stability. So stock purchases is an extreme option. So you can consider second statement as wrong. Conditionalities for IMF financial support often necessitate structural reforms, which may include overhauling of state-owned enterprises in borrowing country. Exactly, this is what we have done in 1991. LPG reforms is all about this. So you can relate with this and directly take this statement as correct. So two statement, even if you don't know anything about any specific knowledge, is not asked in the question. What expected from you? Think on these, whatever terms are there in the question. Do not consider anything is given totally unnecessarily, or do not overread it. I have seen like 3-4 options are given. हाँ 3 तो matching है, तो सब matching है. This kind of mentality don't go. Try to think on every words, every concept. Try to relate it with some sort of concept. So here answer will be only 2 statements are correct. Basics of IMFs, you have to apply it. Yeah, it is corrected there. हाँ मैं उधर correct किया है. See, वो correct करो, वो गलत है उसमें. ठीक है. Now what all? Why study IMF? Why study even international organizations? How many questions you will get? Minimum 2, maximum 5. Some years liberally questions come from international organizations. Minimum 2 every year you are getting. So these are some specific questions related to IMF. This was asked in 2022. Now why this was asked? Because the Sri Lankan crisis was going on. Sri Lanka was indeed trying to access these kind of instruments. It was very much in news. That's why this question came in 2022. Similarly, this is more like a basics question. What exactly is gold tranche system and or reserve tranche system? What exactly definition is being asked? Credit system granted by IMF to its members. What is answer for this? This will be IMF itself. Very straightforward questions it is. Very good, very good. IMF interception will be very fast, immediate, because the country will be in extreme crisis. World Bank and other multilateral banks are more like long-term investments, like government policy assisting, these kind of things. Good, good. So these are some news. Sri Lanka got a 3 billion assistance. Now we have this World Bank IMF spring meeting. G20 as a representative of G20, India also participated in this meeting. So these have been two news related to IMF in recent past. Basic facts about IMF when it was launched or when it was established. 1944 Bretton Woods Conference. 190 members are part of this. All these are given in your workbook. You can go through this. SDR, little bit knowledge about SDR. What is SDR? These are different agreements available if a country is facing troubles. First option is member quotas. If member quota is not working, then go to new agreements to borrow. Sign some agreements with structural reforms. Agreement come with structural reforms. That is also not working. Bilateral borrowing agreements it can sign with. Now what is SDR? If a option come, SDR is a currency. What is it, right or wrong? Currency. You cannot call SDR as a currency. It is more like a right itself. It is more like an asset. Asset's value is determined by these countries. Five different currencies. Which are these currencies? US dollar, Euro pound, Chinese, Japanese, and pound sterling. Euro is also part of this. Euro, pound, and sterling is different. So these 5 countries, highest weightage is for US dollar, lowest is for Japanese yen. Not Japanese yen, pound sterling. Pound sterling is in UK, right? So only UK is there, so that is having least weightage. What else? Depends on situation, and how much SDR you have, it depends on how much quota you have. How much quota you have depends on so much factors. Your GDP, your openness of the economy, all that is also provided in your workbook. All these 5 different factors it will be depending on. And depending on the quota, you have your voting rights. India have around 2.66, something like this. Now these are some recommendations from the G20 World Bank IMF G20 meeting that is being held. Only one specific thing you need to take into consideration, that is this Accra Marrakech agenda. What is it? Something related to climate change. Financing, debt financing, how to make different financing options more climate friendly. The G20 subdivisions, what is its name? Vulnerable 20 group. This vulnerable 20 is coming with this Accra Marrakech agenda. Okay. So no need to, that has been finalized. We will cover it in next class also. So that's why we are not going too much into details of this. Just understand it is something related to climate change. Objective is different kind of financing, how to make different financing climate friendly. Rest of the things are factual things you can read from your workbook. We're not spending too much on this. Go through the second question. बताओ क्या आंसर है? Let's read the question. Identify the primary factors contributing to the recent depreciation of Turkish lira and associated economic challenges in Turkey. Turkey, what is happening in Turkey? Give me a brief. Since around 4-5 years, Turkey is under some kind of economic turmoil. What is the biggest reason for this? Some kind of currency manipulation. Okay. Usually how you take economic decisions. Economic decisions means what? You have two aspects to control. One is monetary policy, one is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy means what? What is the rate of taxation? Based on rate of taxation, government will get the money, how much government should spend. And all the other, if spending is more, where you are getting the loan, where you are getting the extra money. That is fiscal aspect. Second part is monetary aspect. Monetary aspect में क्या होगा? Interest rate, how you manage the interest rate in the economy. Based on interest rate, what you are trying to control? Money supply in the economy. By controlling the money supply, you are trying to control, especially mostly inflation. You can relate India mein, it is inflation in the priority, but other countries have system. We also have earlier system which takes into consideration inflation, GDP, exports, all these other economic factors also. Now what happened in Turkey is this whole system we have. What is the role of government in all of this? Why we are keeping something like this? Why we have a separate institution like RBI, and RBI is given some sort of independent powers. Only in extreme cases government try to interfere in this interest rate. Why we have RBI as an independent organization? What is the need for this? So why can't finance ministry or some other ministry under the government undertake this? Like wherever you interference, you bring in government into picture, what is the consequence? Politics will decide what exactly is this. You take fiscal deficit. Who decide fiscal deficit? Government. 2019 fiscal deficit will be higher. 2024 fiscal deficit will be higher. Why? We have elections going on. State election, state fiscal deficit you take. Elections are coming, fiscal deficit widens in general. So whenever you bring in the aspect of government, there will be, politics will be a dictating factor. And it's very difficult to go beyond this. Maybe some government has gone beyond this, maybe long-term decisions they have taken. But in general, it is not easy to overcome the pressure, political pressure. Otherwise, you will not be in the power, then what you are going to do. Now, what is our general economic logic? What happened during COVID-19? Pandemic happened. We had lockdowns. We have everything stopped down, imports, exports, kind of a standstill situation. So the purchasing, people were not purchasing anything. GDP was all down. So what is government doing this time? Government need to pump in money. Government, can we have a screen? Yeah. Government need to So we have COVID-19, kind of a recession situation. What government need to do? Pump in money. Now how government can pump in money? Fiscal measures. What are fiscal measures? Spent like US government did. They were giving so much of direct benefits to people who lost the job during pandemic. Direct transfers were being done to people. What India did? India withheld this temptation. India did transfer some into the women accounts. We have some kind of transfers. We have grain transfer also. But comparing to the scale in which US has done, we hadn't done. We withheld we kept some kind of maturity, you can say, or some kind of withholding in doing the fiscal measures. What is the other measure you have? Monetary measure. Now monetary measure, what it is saying? Lower the interest rate. Now in 2021, pandemic started finishing. World 2022, you can see world waking up, world getting into active game, gaining back the businesses, gaining back the foothold. Then comes the Ukraine-Russia crisis. And what was the consequence of this? Disruption in supply chain throughout the world. You can see related with the chip shortage, semiconductor industries. You can relate it with even fuel. Even India is not facing it. Why? Because we are buying from Russia and we got a very good deal and we are happy about it. So somewhere we got away from the consequences of this. But there has been disruption, and due to this disruption, one way government is pumping so much money into the system. One way interest rate is kept low. Interest rate kept low means people have a tendency to take loans. Again, money supply here goes up. Money supply here goes up. So once pandemic end, what is the consequence we are facing with? We have seen USA's inflation rate going at 8%. Even in India, 8%, we'll say, ठीक है, 6 was our limit, 2% ज़्यादा हो गया. हाँ, because हमको it's not that big deal for having 4%. Some months we go 7-8%, then we come back again to within our ranges. We manage the things. But US is historically having inflation of 0.5%. Well, less than 1% inflation, less than 2% inflation. For that country, having 8% inflation means 4 into inflation that is happening. And what is the source of inflation? One major source is increased cash flow, increased cash supply in the system. Now again, this was not just related to USA, this was happening throughout the world. What countries should do in this situation? Increase the interest rate, withhold the fiscal deficit, whatever happened. Now stop it. Spending, stop it. Increase the highest rate. In 2022, throughout the cycle, we see RBI increasing the interest rate. Now, if interest rate, central bank is increasing, what happened to GDP growth? Mostly a kind of an inverse relationship. GDP growth may be slowdown happen. A lot of other factors depends, but general tendency is a slowdown happens. So if GDP indicator is something which people see, GDP indicator is something which can be seen by everyone. So what happened with these consequences? If government is increasing or a central bank is increasing the indicators, that is somehow working against the interest of the government. Government to show the report card, they need GDP growth. So if you want